Good morning, Soul City Church. Good to see y'all. How you doing this morning? How you feeling? Good. Getting fired up talking about coffee. Good. For those of you who are crammed in this space and people in our overflow spaces, for those of you who are worshiping online, I'm so glad you carved out this time to know and grow in your relationship with God. My name's Jarrett. I'm one of the lead pastors. Jeannie and I have the privilege of starting and pastoring and leading this church with some of the most incredible people in the world. So it is just so good to be home with y'all. Jeannie had you talk just a second ago. You were clearly very passionate about the best cup of coffee in Chicagoland. I heard some conversations were like about to go to blows over which is the better coffee shop. Y'all are very passionate about this. Chicago is very passionate about everything. Let's just be honest about it. And I actually this last week had a kind of similar situation. My buddy Aaron, who's here, he and I were out at a men's retreat. I had the privilege of being a part of leading a men's retreat in San Diego with pastors and business leaders from all over the country. And at one of the meals, we started talking about the best taco. What city has the best taco? Who's got the best tacos? And now I need you to understand, there were guys there from San Diego, from Houston, from Los Angeles. These are some heavy hitter taco cities. But your boy was there to hold Chicago down. So I started telling them about hands down the best taco, not only in the city, in the world. In fact, I brought some that are from yesterday here. And these are the best tacos I have ever had in my life. They are so think about it, they're so good. They're like street tacos, but dressed up for a formal event. Very mindful, very demure. Price to size ratio is perfect, right? You ever know, you gotta get that right. You gotta get the price to size ratio right. And I've been to Mexico many times. I would contend that these are as good, if not better, than tacos that I've had there. We've been taking our kids there since they were little, and I'm actually getting kind of hungry talking about it right now. Is it weird to have a taco for breakfast? Or is it more weird not to have a taco for breakfast? That's probably more weird. Anyway, best taco I've had in my life. There you go. I'm probably gonna have to go there after church and get fresh ones because these are from yesterday. So good. Huh? Oh gosh, I'm sorry. I got so excited to eat it. Because this has happened before. I've told you about some of our favorite places, and then you blow up my spot. And I can't even go there anymore. And this is, if I'm being honest, this place is really special to our family. It's not as good when it's 2 days old. It's really special to our family. We've been going there for so long. It's such a special place. And I'm sure, listen, here's the deal. I bet you already have your favorite taco place, right? No, you probably do. And so I don't want to offend you by saying, this is my taco place, and I don't want you to feel bad about your taco place. I mean, I don't even know if you're into tacos. You may not even be into tacos that much. So I don't want to put that on you. And what if you go to my taco place and you don't like it? And you never have a taco again for the rest of your life? I can't have that on me or my taco place. So maybe I'll invite you to join me for a taco on Christmas or Easter sometime. Oh, you see what he was doing there? Yeah, that's weird, isn't it? That I would gatekeep the best taco in all of Chicago with you? That is, who would do that? What kind of friend what kind of pastor would keep that information from you? Why wouldn't I just tell you about this thing that means so much to me? Why? Doesn't that just seem weird that I wouldn't do that? And yet for so many of us, when it comes to the thing that matters the most to us, so often that's what we actually do. When it comes to sharing the thing that matters the most to us, or the one who matters the most to us, sometimes, let's be honest, we make it weird. We get real weird about it. Because ultimately here, we are not here to talk about tacos, as much as I would love to. We're not here to talk about that. What we're here to actually do is to explore why it is such a good thing to share that one thing that's changed everything in your life. We're here to get clear on why sharing about who Jesus is and what Jesus has done in your life and what he's doing in the lives of others is actually the most loving thing you can do for the people that you care about, that are around you. And we have to be honest though, maybe more importantly, we need to explore why it is that we don't share the thing that matters the most to us. We're just gonna take a couple seconds to unpack. Why don't we share more about what we care about the most, right? Because you're so passionate about coffee. And I'm so passionate about tacos or whatever. We can talk about that all day. But why don't we share more about the thing that actually matters the most to us? Why do we sometimes have to make it so weird, so awkward, so afraid that we don't know what they'll think about us if we were to share about Jesus with them and it's gonna make the whole relationship weird? Especially with the people that God has lovingly, and I would contend, that God has literally put around you. So over the course of the next couple minutes, I'm committed to helping you see that sharing Jesus with the people you care about is actually one of the most loving and most logical things for you to do. And how it doesn't have to be weird. And how you can actually begin to do it this week, actually. We're gonna have a way that you can do that this week. Now, I know because of our church, there's so many people all over the spiritual spectrum. I know that there's people here today or watching online or listening later, and you would not call yourself a Christian. You say, like, I'm not sure, I'm checking this out, I'm not so sure about this. Here's the good thing. I'm so glad you're here. I cannot believe that you would choose this place to be a place for you to explore faith. I'm so grateful for that. And my hunch is, one of the reasons, maybe some reason why you are here is because someone is doing what I'm about to talk about today in your life. So we're just gonna pull back the curtain so you see it all. Because I want you to know what is at the heart and the center of this faith. And if you call yourself someone who's maybe seeking or you've got questions, you're not there yet, I have something I wanna share with you at the end that I think is just perfect for you for a next step. But before we get to that, I wanna do a little unpacking of this whole idea because I'm still swallowing that taco. Because the Christian faith actually has a big and beautiful, and let's be honest, sometimes broken history with this idea of sharing Jesus with others. Now, there's a word that has been attached to this whole idea of sharing Jesus. And churchy folks already know where I'm going. I don't know how many churchy folks we got here, but you know the word that we use within the church to talk about this idea of sharing Jesus with others. And that word is evangelism. How many of y'all are familiar with that word, evangelism? Yeah, it actually comes from two Greek words. And I also know, the second I just said two Greek words, John's finally starting to listen to my message. But the idea here is it comes from two Greek words, a noun and a verb. Evangelion, which actually means to have a good news, a gospel, that's the noun. It's a good message, a gospel. And evangelizo, which actually means to share or to proclaim, to declare, to bring good news. That's where we get the idea of evangelism from, if you've ever heard that word before. So evangelism, this big churchy word, is actually just announcing or bringing a good message about Jesus. I know that for some of us, maybe you have some baggage around that word, but I want to be really clear. That's actually all that it's about. Sharing, declaring, and bringing good news to others. The idea here is really simple. Followers of Jesus are to announce or to declare, share the good news of Jesus. In fact, for those of us who would actually call ourselves Christians, odds are there is someone in your life who did exactly that. You may be able to pinpoint back in your story a person or a group of people that did that for you, and aren't you glad they did? Because it's changed your life literally forever. I can trace it back to, I can tell you it's my parents, my mom and dad, and my first grade Sunday school teacher, Mrs. Dopart. She wanted to share this good news with me. And so as a young kid, I said yes to Jesus. And as a reward, she bought me my very first Bible. I still have it to this day. And she even engraved my name in gold on the bottom of the Bible. How cool is that? And the best part about this tiny little Bible is not only how small the words are, but they're written in King James translation, which is great for an 8-year-old. So what perfect gift that she gave me there. So honestly, like somewhere at some point, you actually have someone that you can point to that shared this message, this good news with you. And my hunch is you're so glad that they did. Think about what your life would be if they hadn't. This idea of sharing Jesus, though, it's not just personal, it's not just a relational thing. It's actually fundamentally a biblical principle. It's a biblical idea because every attempt at sharing Jesus over the last 2,000 years, whether it was helpful or hurtful, effective or ineffective, is actually rooted in, and can be traced back to this one intriguing idea and this one clear command from Jesus, and it's found in Matthew 28. And so I'm gonna ask you to open a Bible and turn there now. Now, if you're here in this room, there should be a Soul City Bible that's right under your seat in front of you or on the armrest. You can turn to page 811 in the Soul City Bible. So grab a Bible. I would encourage everyone to do this. We all wanna kind of explore this command that we've been given by Jesus to share what matters most to us. So page 811 is Matthew 28. If you're with us online or listening later, just open up a tab or an app or whatever you need to do to get to Matthew 28. Now, the context here is really important for what I'm about to share with you. Because in Matthew 28, this is actually after Jesus' death and resurrection. And before Jesus actually, like right before he ended his time here on earth and ascended into heaven. So this is right before all of that. This is one of the final moments that Jesus actually has with his followers. Again, I want to be really clear. After all the miracles he had done and that they had seen, after all the healing that he had done and that they had seen, after God had literally raised him from the dead, that's where we pick up in Matthew 28, and I want to specifically start in verse 16, because look what's going on. It says, then the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain where Jesus had told them to go. When they saw him, they worshiped him. I'm going to have you shout out this next word in a minute. But some what? But some? Doubted. Say it again. Some? Doubted. Now think about that for a moment. Some still doubted. See, this is why I love that this made it into the final cut of the Bible. Because if I was writing that story, I'd be like, select all, delete. Like, there's no way I would want people to know that. That's not what I would do. But no, some still, after everything they'd seen, doubted, didn't fully believe. And this honestly isn't even the point of this message. I just feel like I gotta say this for someone who's here or listening online, because I believe that there are plenty of people here right here now today or listening later. I believe that there are people here for whom you have actually counted yourself out because of your doubts. You've disqualified yourself because of your doubts. You believe that you have to believe it all with no questions and no hesitations, and if you don't, well then God clearly doesn't believe in you. And that honestly could not be any further from the truth. Y'all, I've been at this since the dough part days. I've been doing this for a long time, and I still to this day doubt whether God really loves me. Still. Now listen, I can stand up on this stage and I can tell you till I'm blue in the face, without a doubt, God loves you. And I could show you all the verses and all the evidence of how much God loves you. I could even put some little slide up there with some kind of rhyme to let you know about how much God loves you. I can tell you all about it all day, but I still doubt at times if he loves me. Do you know what it really is? I doubt at times if he likes me. To this day. But that doesn't mean I give up on God. And that doesn't mean God's given up on me. And that doesn't mean that you actually don't have any faith to share, even though you don't have all of your faith figured out. That's not how this works. Faith is not pass or fail. The doubt, for those of us wrestling and struggling through doubt right now, doubt is just faith working itself out. Think about it that way. Doubt is just faith trying to work itself out of maybe the box that you've put God into, the concept of the construct you've created. That's what's going on. And so if the people who spent the most amount of time with Jesus, who had seen it all firsthand, still at the end had doubts and still followed Jesus, so can you. So can you, even with your doubts. Now, that's not even the message, Aaron. I still have other things to say. Verse 18 says this, then Jesus actually came to them and said, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, what's the next word? Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I've commanded you. And surely, this is the promise, and surely I will be with you till the very end. I am physically leaving, but my Spirit is coming to be with you as you go and share. Now, does any of what we just read from Jesus, Matthew 28, does any of that sound passive to you? Or like a suggestion, like, hey, if you have time, maybe once you're done with your taco, you can maybe. No, what does he say? He says, go. This is what I'm telling you to do, go. Even those with doubts, you are to go out and to love people and to lead people, all people, any people, everyone, all of them to me and baptize them in my name. Do for them what someone has done for you and help them grow in their faith. Because he's not only speaking to those disciples there, he's actually speaking to you and to me, that we actually have a mission and a mandate from Jesus. Now, again, I'm talking to those of you who are Christians. If you're checking the faith thing out, sit back for a little bit. You just get to relax for a little bit. For those of you who are Christians, and maybe you've been at this a long time, when I use words like you have a mission, you have a mandate to tell people about Jesus, for some of us, that can feel a little heavy-handed. That can feel a little bit like, whoa. Who are you to tell me what to do? No. And who am I to tell others about Jesus? Like feels like we have some sort of hidden agenda with people. I don't like how that feels. Like we can't be friends with people without it having to come back to Jesus at some point. Like we're constantly on some sort of spiritual sales call with everyone in our life. And don't get me wrong, there are definitely Christians who've gone overboard with this idea and made it super weird. And we often still have to pay the tax on their weirdness. So no doubt about that. But for any of us who feel like this idea of evangelism, of sharing Jesus, has some sort of agenda to it, I want to be really, really clear about that concept. Yes, this is an agenda. You have an agenda for the people in your life. And I want to be really clear. You already have agendas for the people in your life. Every relationship you have a desire, you have a point, you have a purpose for why you're in a relationship. So you already have an agenda for every relationship in your life. What I'm contending, what Jesus is teaching is make your primary agenda loving them like I love you. You have an agenda, that's okay, let's get over it. We have a point and a purpose and a mission and a mandate in this world. And if you love your friends and if you care about your neighbors and coworkers, then don't you want what's best for them? Like, don't you want them to thrive and don't you want them to prosper in this world? And for those of us who've said yes to Jesus, you know that there is nothing greater and no greater way for you to thrive in this life than through Jesus. Think of, again, talking to those of you Christians, think of all the freedom that you found. Think of the peace that permeates your life on a daily basis. Think of that feeling that you know what it feels like to be fully forgiven. The healing maybe that's making you whole right now. Aren't you grateful that you found that? And don't you want that for them? Don't you want that for the people that you care about the most? If you love them, if you care about them, I would want them to have that as well. Why wouldn't you want them to know what's possible in a life and a relationship with Jesus? What they choose to do about it, that's actually up to them. That's not up to you. But whether or not you share with them, that's up to you. So I want to invite you into two simple ways of thinking about how it is that you can declare, share this good news. How can you actually share Jesus with the people that matter the most to you, the people that are around you? And based on the passage that we just looked at, I want to try and make this as simple as possible. So I want you to think about two ways that you can do this. We're just going to look at two ways that you can do this week in your life. The first way to think about this, again, based on this teaching, is this idea of go and be. That's what Jesus was saying to his followers. Go and be Jesus to a world that desperately needs him. So that's the mandate, that's the mission for all of us, to go and be. This does not mean go and be perfect, please. None of us could actually do that. It does not mean go and be weird. Please, please, please don't do that. It just means go and be like Jesus as best you can. Be someone who is being changed and transformed and let others see it. Go and be the person who's the most encouraging person in your office. Go and be the person who cares about the people that everyone else seems to overlook. Go and be the person who forgives those who've hurt you, harmed you, and wronged you. Because when you do, you are going and being like Jesus. Not perfect, far from it, just someone who's letting their life, their transformation be lived out in the lives of others. So that's the invitation from Jesus, to go and be. And you can do that. You don't have to have a script memorized. You don't have to get through a certain number of points. You just live your life with Jesus in front of others. Does that make sense? Just like you would share anything else that matters in your life and in this world. So that's one way. That's the one way. Go and be. The second way to share Jesus is actually something available to you that was not available to those disciples in that exact moment in Matthew 28. Jesus knew what was coming. They didn't know, because not only was he sending them out to go and be, what was about to happen was the church was about to be born so that people could actually say to those they care about, come and see. Come and see. That's another way of sharing the love of Jesus. Come and see. This church, this imperfect place where people can come and experience the perfect love of Jesus. Not only are each of us called to go and be, but we get to actually say to those in our life, hey, would you just come and see? I may not be able to answer all your questions. I don't have it all figured out, but would you just come and see? Would you just come and see what it's like? Would you just come and see who these people are? This is different than anything else I have in my world. Come and take a test drive if you want. Come and see what it looks like for people, everyday ordinary people like you and me, to find and follow Jesus. And then determine for yourself what it is that you actually want to do about that. Go and be, come and see. You can do that. Go and be, come and see. I think about how every day there's probably in your life an opportunity and an invitation to do either one of those, maybe both of those. I think back to years ago when I hopped into an Uber. Now, to know me, my family would tell you, to know me is when I get in an Uber, I intend to leave with the best friend. Like, I am a chatty Cathy when it comes to the Uber driver. My family, when we're in it together, they go into low power mode. I am like, I'll sit in the front seat and I'll talk to that Uber driver. And so years ago, I was actually heading to O'Hare to get on a flight to go do my grandmother's memorial service. So I was gonna lead my grandmother's memorial service. I was in an Uber to O'Hare, and the person driving asked me, hey, where are you going? Albuquerque. Oh, business or pleasure? I'm like, kind of neither. So I got to explain, I'm going to do a funeral. Oh, are you a part of the service? They asked me. And I had that moment for me where I could really like try and make it not weird, but make it super weird by saying, I'm like a thought leader in the nonprofit space. Like just like low-key, like downplay that I'm a pastor so I don't make it weird. I'd only make it weirder. So I was just like, I'm a pastor. My wife and I pastor a church in Chicago, and immediately I see her eyes in the mirror, like, you're a pastor? Yeah. She goes, oh my gosh, I cannot believe you're in my car today. And began to tell me some of the stuff that was going on in her life, told me about how she kind of grown up around faith, but it was a really oppressive, I would say, as I've gotten to know her more, maybe a kind of abusive faith that she had in her life. And how she'd walked away from that, and she was in a really tough season. And so I'm able in that moment to try as best I can to be like Jesus and hold that space with her. And then I got to say to her, hey, would you ever want to come and see our church? Would you ever be willing to do that? And so I told her all about our church. I said, look, I want to get your number. This is weird. Don't ask Uber drivers for their numbers. But I said, let me get your number. I'll text you. I'll invite you to come and see. Maybe this could be a place where you might experience some healing. Find a Jesus who actually is tender, who loves you, cares about all of who you are. Well, imagine my surprise, 2 Sundays later, I see her 10 minutes before the doors even open, standing in our lobby, ready here at this church. Oh my gosh, hugged each other and like, oh, this is so great. Oh, I'm so glad you're here. And for a season of her life, this church became her healing place, where she actually got to find and follow Jesus. She was in the prayer hall every single Sunday. And I watched God soften her heart, open her up. She got involved. She's part of our church. And then some things happened in her family where she had to kind of move out a little bit further out into the burbs to take care of some stuff with her family. So we tried to get her connected to a church out there. Well, fast forward several years. And John and I and some of our creative team were at a conference out in the suburbs. And a woman comes running up to me, Pastor Jarrett, and gives me a hug. And I'm like, yes, person. I didn't know. I was like, yeah, sister. I had no idea. I had no idea. And then she began to explain, like, oh my gosh, do you remember I came to your church? Remember I was your Uber driver, and began to unpack it for me. Like, oh my gosh, that was like 5 years ago. She goes, I know. I work at this church now. I'm like, wait, what? What? She goes, yeah, I work at this church now. God's changed my life so much. And so now she gets to be a part of helping others find and follow Jesus in that story. Now listen, I'm not telling you that. I'm not telling you that because I'm awesome and that happens in every Uber that I take. That is not the story at all. The point is, I actually had a moment to choose whether I was gonna go and be like Jesus in this drive or invite her to come and see, and what if I hadn't had that spiritual conversation with her? I don't know. I don't know what would have happened. What would have happened if I would have done what I often sometimes do? I'm like, sometimes I do put the AirPods in and pretend like I'm asleep in an Uber. Like I'm gonna be honest, that happens sometimes. What if I would have, what would have happened? I would have missed out on the opportunity of seeing God change someone's life from the inside out. And I needed that. Maybe even more than she needed to find and follow Jesus. I needed to be reminded that God is still moving in the lives of people, sometimes in the lives of absolute strangers who happen to be giving you a ride in that moment. I get to play a small part, you get to play a small part in God's big plan for other people's redemption and transformation. And that at any moment and every moment, you will have opportunities to go and be and to say, come and see. So So I want to help you actually get into that work this week. So there is a card in the Bible. So go ahead and that Bible, go ahead. If you hadn't pull it out again. There's a little postcard sized card and a pen. Looks just like this on the screen. So I want to ask everyone to grab that while I'm talking for the next couple of minutes. So grab that card if you find one. If not, you can do this on your notes app or whatever in your phone. But I would encourage you to put it on the card, grab the pen. Because I want to help you think about how and who it is that you can go and be and invite to come and see in this next season. So grab the card, grab the pen. Here's the question that I want you to start thinking of and writing down names on when I ask you this question. Who are the few that God has put around you? I want you to think about that. Who are the few in this season that God has put around you in your life? Who are the few that God has around you in this particular season? It changes from season to season. So who are the few that God has put around you? And I want you to think about the people that you care about the most and start writing their names down. Writing down the names of the few that God has around you. Maybe it's a roommate for you. Maybe it's a coworker. Maybe it's someone in your family. Maybe it's a friend. Maybe it's someone you know right now that's in a season where they're really hurting and they're really struggling, and God has you around their life in this season. So I want you, even just as I'm talking, you can keep writing. Who are the few that God has put around you? And I want you to start thinking about how can you either go and be like Jesus with them this week, or invite them to come and see what Jesus is up to here at this church. What would that look like? I want you to get as incredibly specific as possible with the few that God has put around you that need his hope, that need his healing, that need his freedom, that need his forgiveness in their lives. And as you're thinking about how you're gonna go and be and come and see, I cannot miss I would regret missing the opportunity to say that one of the best things of all the things we do here at this church, one of the best things that you can invite someone to come and see is Alpha. There is no easier invite. You heard Jeannie and Alyssa talk about it just a moment ago. Alpha is the easiest place for anyone, for everyone, I believe, one of the most powerful places for people to come and see, to bring their spiritual questions, to be a part of a spiritually safe community and space, and to enjoy an incredible meal together. Alpha is one of the best places for the people you know to come and see. And I've been a part of Alpha for a while now. I've been a helper in Alpha. I'm gonna be a big part of it this fall. I'm so excited for Alpha to kick off. I would love for you to join me, to be there. And maybe, again, remember those of you who said you wouldn't call yourselves Christians, you're not quite sure? This is my personal invite to you. I would love for you, if you trust me at all or this church at all, to just show up that first night at Alpha. You can come sit at my table, be my friend. I would love for you to come and see, bring your questions. Come and see. And so maybe some of the names that you're writing down right now, or maybe it's just you yourself, you know that this is the next step for you to come and see. So keep on writing as we do that. And I just want to remind you again that this is not a suggestion. This is not a get to it if you happen to have time. This is your mission in this world. And this is a mandate from Jesus. And it doesn't have to be hard, and it doesn't have to be weird. You can simply just go and be like Jesus this week to people in your life, those names that you're writing down. Or say, hey, would you just come and see what he's up to? And so I want to pray for you and for those names. If you'd stand up right now, right where you're at. If you need to keep writing, go ahead and keep writing. We're going to just close with a song and declare the goodness of this Jesus that we believe changes everything. And if you have your card, can you still keep it in your hand? Because I want to pray over that. So if you still have your card, don't put it away yet. I'm actually going to pull mine out that I filled out the last gathering. I'm actually going to pray over this. And so if you would you put one hand over that card for those names right now? And just join me in a prayer. Jesus, we thank you. We thank you that you call us your friends, that you love us like that. And even when I doubt it, when I forget it, I know, you love us more than we know and more than we deserve. And you love these names, these people, more than we know and more than maybe they even think they deserve. And so I pray for every name written down, that this wouldn't just be kind of a moment we have in church and then we go on about our lives. I pray that something would sink deep into us and that you would open up opportunities this week, that we take advantage of the moments that we have to go and be like you with these folks, to take a risk, to share with them the thing that matters most to us, to invite them to come and see, whether it's to Alpha or to this church. I pray, God, that you'd be leading us into an invitational season as a church, that we would be an inviting church, that we live invitational lives, that we would trust that you know and you care about these folks more than we ever could. And God, I pray for every name written on every card. God, I'm praying right now that in a season not too long from now, they'll be standing, they'll be praying, they'll be singing your praise here at this church. They'll be baptized, they'll be walking with you, they'll be using the gifts that you've given them. And we'll remember, we'll look back and say, man, I remember when I wrote their name down. I remember when I prayed for them. I remember when I took that risk. I can't believe what you've done, God. Yeah, God, would you fill this church with those kind of stories? Remind us that that's our story. And thank you for the folks that have done that for us. So Jesus, we want to thank you. We want to praise your name for all of who you are, for all that we have, and the time that we have. We pray this in your name. Amen.